turn off the AC. I'll do that. Okay, cool. Good. So, as earlier briefed, we are here to engage on how Stanbic Bank can support all the other stakeholders to reopen our schools after a very long time. Parents, schools, suppliers, teachers, everybody who is involved. What do we do to support schools to reopen, to send kids back? And I know some of you members of the press are not just parents, but also guardians. And if you're not a parent or guardian, you are Ugandan and you care for our education, situation. So this is not just business for us, it is corporate responsibility. And we'll be hearing from our CEO what Stanbic Bank is doing to support the sector to reopen after 24 months. Before you, you have members have a stake from the education sector, a director of a school. You'll hear from them directly from the horse's mouth how the situation of the pandemic has really affected them. And then I think we are expecting another school that will join us shortly. And then from the government side, you'll hear the preparedness of the government in supporting schools to reopen. And then for us as the private sector, we can only come in to support all these initiatives. So without really further ado, a very short prayer because it's brand new year, 5 days into the year. So we have to pray that we are here 360 days later. So let me ask my colleague Diane to give us a very short prayer and then we can get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Let's humble ourselves for a prayer, very short prayer. Heavenly Father, King of Kings, we want to thank you for this day that you have made, O God. We want to thank you for the start of a new year, O God. And into you, Father. We thank for guidance. We pray, Lord. And we pray that, Father, that whatever it is that we do will be done based on the wisdom from above. We've prayed, trusting and believing in your name. Amen.
All right, so after that, I think we'll just go straight into this. So I'll ask our CEO, Anjuko, to really give us opening remarks and really tell us exactly why we're here. And then we'll take it up from there. Over to you, Anne. There's a microphone.
Thank you, Ken. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I will start by thanking you for but also confirming that you can hear me well. You want me to hold the mic? Okay. I knew there would be instructions. Good. So I want to start by a quick intro today, and then we'll get into the gist of the matter. Can I start with? Good
evening, members. My name is Dogo Singh.
You're operating on New York time.
Good morning. My name is Dogo Singh from
Good morning. My name is Matthias Jumba. I'm the head of Value Banking at Stanbic Bank.
You want to repeat that?
Good morning. Head employee Value Banking at Stanbic Bank.
Okay, I'll repeat. Good morning. My name is in Stanbic Bank. Thank you very much.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Annette Kichoncho is my name. I head public sector for business and commercial clients, but primarily my main pillar and anchor is the education sector.
I'm Dr. Kedres Triagenda. I'm the Director Education Standards.
Thank you. I shall pass it on.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nafumba Mustafa. I'm the Managing Director of PG Mixed Senior School.
Good morning. My name is Sonia Karamagi Kasaga. A Happy New Year to you all. And I am the Manager Customer Experience at the bank.
My name is Sengendo Henry. I am a relationship manager.
Wonderful. Thank you. Very much. As you have heard, a fair number of us are from Stanbic, but we take special recognition and honor and a special welcome to our partners in the mission. Dr. Kedris, a warm and special welcome to you.
Thank you.
You this journey with them. Even when the schools were closed, we've been with the ministry. We continue to work with them. And we're especially happy to receive you, Haj Mustafa from PG. Thank you very much for doing the traffic and being here on time. With you what we're doing. So, let meat of the matter. First, I will start by being unequivocal about SOPs and request that at all times, please keep your masks on. We will all keep our masks on. If we must be a little louder to be heard, we will. But we have seen... Friends, are you okay? Can I give you a minute? I'll give you a minute.
Is anyone still up? I thought we're
Let me. It's very disrupting. Let's give them a chance. Happy? Are we all okay now? Okay, so as I was saying, that for the duration of this conversation, masks must be on at all times. Numbers that we are seeing are especially worrying. So we have a role to protect each other. And true is SOPs, whether you're vaccinated or not, and plenty of sanitizer across the room at all times. So, if we go into the meat of the matter, we here, and what do we hope to achieve here today? There are several reasons. Stanbic Bank has been a long-term investor in the education sector. Even when it closed, we remained close and we remained in touch with the policymakers. Continue to do that. We're here today to reiterate our commitment to the education sector and play our role as Uganda's largest bank at such a critical has ever happened in the history. Schools being closed for an extended period of time and then having to reopen. At all times, we have maintained that there is no doubt in our minds when it comes to the long-term sustainable education sector. And I'll tell you why. The demographics of Uganda alone lend themselves. Of our population is under the age of 30. Many of these are attending one education institution or the other. From kindergarten to postgraduate studies, it is all. And according to the ministry statistics, we are told that there are 16 million Ugandans who education institutions. There are over 28,000 education institutions, 500,000 teachers, and the education sector makes up 8. For us is core to our purpose. Every time we have this conversation, we are clear in our minds and to our stakeholders that our purpose is Uganda is our home, we drive her growth. That drive Uganda's growth. Education is that one sector. And even when it was unfashionable to be in the education sector because they were closed for a long period of time, we have remained, continued to run. And here today we reiterate. And as Kenneth mentioned in his opening remarks, we don't just do this for the profitability of it all. We also do it because it is important. Our National Schools Program, as you have come to see, for 6 years, whether there was COVID or not, we found a way. We have impacted over 300,000 students in across 100 schools across the country. Allow the students to learn and commit to endure principles of entrepreneurship. That over and above what they learn in the classroom, we teach them a little about how to run a business. We give them a chance and be able to win great prizes, but also learn the process as we create the future leaders and job creators of tomorrow. So the education continues to be a relevant sector. Now, today we unveil our proposition to the sector. When we think about the education sector, we think about the different players within the sector. So it's not enough for us as a bank to say we are working in the ministry. They are just making policy. It is not enough for us to say we are only working with schools. Because take you through the different people and to solution for and provide bespoke banking solutions to their needs, not just for opening, but for as we continue foremost at the institutions themselves. Early child tertiary institutions and universities. All of these will be covered. We have offers for each of these universities. The second and whether it's in our insurance product from an education policy insurance point of view, or savings, or even gadgets. We've now learned that chalk and blackboard, Dr. Kedris, is no longer enough. We're now embracing the hybrid version. We know that many of our students have been home for the last years, and they will need to play catch-up. In that event of playing catch-up, the need for a physical laptop or budget is going to be important. So we will share with you what we're doing in making sure that our parents are able to afford a gadget for their children as they start into this hybrid model catch-up. Over and above that, we're working with other governing bodies, the ministry, associations who are involved in this. To and for the suppliers of the schools. There is no school, as Haji Mustafa will who are providing traditional education materials, but also in the session. For example, when you talk about SOPs in school, how do schools handle that? Because when they take our children to school, they have to remain safe. Our proposition across the different players in the education sector, or what we call the education ecosystem. And without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to unveil our Back2Skool Boost. In this, we're talking about the fact that so many, you've been following education and the Bank of Uganda statistics. Schools have outstanding debt to 1.5 trillion Uganda shillings that they owe to various financial institutions. The first question is this debt and be able to move forward by having some level of operating income. As you've seen, you saw it last year, we also have an event they have put in place that all financial institutions must follow as we support the education. We've done several initiatives. The first of which is we waived 100% of all accrued for all the money they owe us. We will not charge them. We know they didn't work. The schools were closed. So on a new slate. People always ask me, what about the actual date? We can't waive the date, guys. So date cannot be waived. What we can do is to create an enabling environment where we allow the school some room to be able to get back into operation and be able to service their debt. So that's one part we've done. The second one, and equally important, we have reduced our lending cost to schools. Which is 16%. If it's non-secured, it will be prime plus 3, which is 19%. We are also providing support to school suppliers, as I mentioned. These are people to school. Many of them haven't been. Others are looking to supply, but because there is no immediate cash flow, what do we do to be able to help them? A group important. We are parents, and if we're not parents, we are guardians. How do we support the parents to be able to take their children back to school? Your single biggest concern for your child is know that their parents are in a difficult time. How do we support them to be able to take their children back to school? And of course, last but not least, is the ministry and the policymakers. How do we work with them to ensure a smooth flow of the work that they're doing? So, here is our offer. We will give, and I'm talking about parents who already have an existing bank account in Stanbic. We will give an instant loan, an account in Stanbic. You have been operating your account well. You will be able to access our instant loan in 2 minutes. I'm talking 120 seconds. You can get your instant loan if you're there. Also, for parents taking back children to school, we have waived arrangement fees until the 31st. Amount 50 million, and we will have a chance to win back 10% cash when you if you shop using a Stanbic Visa card on whatever you shop. So that is for the parents taking their children back to school. And there will be flyers that will give you the to the schools themselves that are reopening. Facility. Let me clarify that the 500 million is the last 2 years. So we will take the 2019 number. Limit is up to 500 million of unsecured loans. Consideration based on school, as I've mentioned. We'll also of this school, and we will any interest that accrued for last year. So if you had a loan in Stanbic for 2021 and you were school, all interest that was accrued and unpaid will be waived, and you will start on a new slate this year. To the whether you're supplying sanitizer or anything else, or food to schools, which is quite important, we will give a discounted interest rate. We will give LPO financing or invoice discounting, and we will give overdrafts to enable, because we have to lubricate the system. Each one of us has a role to play. So the parent, you have to find the school fees. If you're school, you have to find the initial cash flow to reopen. If a building hasn't been occupied in two for it to be occupied by the parent. I mentioned earlier our laptop facility or our gadget facility, where it is on hire purchase as low as 60,000 a parent can pay a monthly fee for your child to have a laptop. These arrangements are being done with the school so that we can collect the money as part of the school fees. But your child can have a laptop where you don't have to look for the 3.5, 4 million shillings in one go to buy the laptop. Instead, you pay a monthly fee for that. So I also want to mention that we have made it easy and convenient for our parents or any other in this system to pay and make payments, one of which is our agent banking, where we have close to 5,000 agents across the country where you can. Our flag school pay, which is already there, our internet banking, and our mobile banking. Any one of those can be used to pay. So with those few remarks, gentlemen, I want to and really, really welcome your questions, your engagement on this national matter that we are all called upon to contribute to and to be able to work together, work hand in hand to see to it that children return to school. And within a few months, we are back to winning ways of having a relevant and robust education sector that supports many people, creates employment as an economic ecosystem. It is the teachers, it is the people around. There's a lot. Our role is able to open schools actively. I want to pause here for.
Yeah, maybe before that, we are lucky to have Anne mentioned how they have not been working, they're indebted to the. We have a director of a school in the room. His bank is Haj Mustafa.
Thank you so much in this boardroom, and thanks Stanbic Bank for this interaction. It's a good moment we are here sharing this interaction. Down caught us unawares. It took us by surprise. It's never been heard of. Schools were brought to a standstill, and everything was in disarray. We are reopening, though we have taken quite long without operating. The things are very easy there. The cycle of our stakeholders, but what the bank is doing is very this and confidence building good. When schools were closed and we are not operating in isolation from the rest of the institutions, we felt because usually suppliers supply and we pay. Most times we wait to pay after visitations, and the serious schools get their visitations after they have moved for some while. So when schools were closed, visitations had not taken place. So suppliers, we had assured them, let them visit, we shall be paying. So we did not pay then. And schools had loans with Stanbic. We must thank, we are appreciative. Paid. So we say now about the bank loan that we had got. Things were not easy, but we must thank Stanbic even before this for the responses you make to the clients. Before you think of calling the bank, they are calling you, Madam Director. MPG Mixed, you are lost. We've waived this. You can even extend it. It's nature. Whenever you have a to someone, one institution, you feel small, you don't have to go to that institution. Stanbic calls us, we discuss the terms, we have Eva, our branch. The services have been expanded there. called, you discuss the things. They briefed us, and the things are moving on. About this in 1999, I don't know how schools would have moved, because we're not very much certain about the future. My ministry, in one our cow, Mr. Kanyaruto, restoration program, and private schools felt left out. 5 million, minimum of 5 million for secondary school and 4 for primary, for schools restoration policy. They said, no, we have a for you and you will know. We've been left contemplating what package. Little did we know we were discussing with this is a very big package. All this as a private school. Because by working with the largest bank, we've managed to make our schools equally largest in the country. So I'm seeing a brighter future. We've been looking at things, when they talk about teachers, we've been having adverts going on about the misery of teachers on the media. My friends, I'm not being critical, but they took long. And the people working in education felt we were always feeling small. Very few, they were filling PUJAB forms to apply for secondary, for education. Very few applied for education as a course because of that misery. Then, talk about teachers. People thought these are the teachers that get the chalk to go to the chalkboard. People think service and education, we are many. Others were suppliers, transporters, people that were supplying school materials that had long is reaching out to all. I think the situation is very good. We only wish that the situation goes on, because many times such offers are there, the packages are there. But we try to sensitize them in our district associations, NASHU, ASHU, but sensitize, I think it will be very welcome. So it's very easy. What is making it a little bit easier is that we want to sensitize the schools. Yes, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I hear from Dr. Kendrick, and really, I know we've heard everything the government has done. We have the but what we really probably need to know is how our not the only bank lending to schools. And while what we are doing here is taking corporate leadership, government, please.
This meeting, and want to thank the media for being here. And you've been our partners, you know it. We reach, so we are glad to have you with us. It has all been said, but only to add that, as for the innovation and initiatives, they that and they agreed with our future, and our future is our children, and that the best can do is driven by knowledge, science, information, and technology. The best thing to do is provide quality, holistic, competent. And that education had definitely been disrupted by the pandemic. Stanbic came to us, came to our minister. We are, and they shared with us their thoughts, and we agreed that we could actually move together because we realized that both of us had one focus: provision our children, all our children. I'm sure you know that that's the vision of the Ministry of Education and Sports. Quality education and becomes round linked to the journey. So for quite a few months now, we've been working together on the meeting with the minister. We organized a symposium at State House in Tebe, and it is Stanbic that took the lead to bodies, but also to reach out to the government bodies. In this, as the Minister of Education and Sports, the First Lady, Mama Janet Museveni, has already made responsibility. And I was glad to hear the CEO picking on all these categories, because all. And so we had this symposium, and it really brought forth very fruitful attended. But Stanbic took the lead. So I'm glad this morning moving forward is, because as a sector, one of our very big pains, we call it a thorn in the flesh, our great providers through the private sector. As you know, years ago, government approved the privatization policy and brought on board all those who were willing to work with government under the policies of whichever IT services. Sector, we have quite a number in the education sector. So we treasure them. How do we treasure you? Because we know that with our very high rate of population growth, that has been 3.4%. I think of Uganda's population now, slating around 45 million. That means 1.5 million children are born into Uganda every year. And because our economic growth is not running at the same rate with our population growth, the provision of services because the mandate of government not do it on our own. So our friends came on board. We are very, very glad to have you on board. We trust what you do and what you contribute to the nation through the children of this country. So for Stanbic to come forth, because as you know, COVID affected government as well. Government gets its money operating. So when the businesses are not bringing in tax, then government does not have money. So government does have money, and yet the social services have to continue. So we are so glad that Stanbic is coming forth and support themselves, because they all have children. And looking forward to seeing our colleagues, these teachers, these precious teachers in the private schools, who couldn't earn salary, and it's not your fault. From the school fees, and the children were now at home. I'm glad that even them have been thought about in this plan that is coming forth. So I'm really delighted, my sister and your team. You have a great team here. I've seen a few of them. Definitely they must be bigger than this. But we have had a COVID task force of education, which was approved, and we've been working, developing guidelines, working with the Ministry of Health to get around that task force. And I've been privileged to serve as a co-chair of that task force. We've worked so hard that at one point we codenamed ourselves. Now I realize that Stanbic also is part of Team No Sleep. By the time they came up with all this that I've just heard, they definitely have not been sleeping. So I want to call Uganda to stop sleeping. School, keep them safe, and have the schools sustainably running. Thank you very much.
It's one slide, but very important, which is part of what we are offering. The insurance, because these loans have to be protected. And in the room, we have our head of insurance, back insurance in Bank, Dogo Singe. I want you to really highlight our education CVP in a minute or two before we open our Q&A.
My parent or guardian, there is the interest of the child that we are looking after. And at Stanbic Bank, we've designed a unique proposition that we are giving. We do have, for the parents, accident cover for as little as 12,000 a year, which is about shillings a month. You'll be able to cover your child. We all know that accidents do happen, and as they open the children protected. Parents, you can actually cover yourself for as little as 12,000 also per year. Be able to get a funeral, a life insurance cover. Little a year, you get a cover of 2 million shillings. But the beauty is, we also know that the saving component in the country is. This is the first term, but we have the second and the third term, whereby the parent can actually pay a certain amount of money, and it offers a life insurance cover for the parent. We call it an educational policy or an educare, and you can actually walk into any of our 10 million, and God forbid you pass on after just 1 month or 2 months of saving. The insurance family, the bereaved. Second, let's say you have an emergency and you want to withdraw that money. The bank will not penalize you. You will actually not get charged our parents. Also, as you save with us, you also get an interest of 6.5% annually through that particular product. So it's a unique product. For the schools, as they open, we've seen in the recent and this could be issues related to maybe the wiring or militia. Comprehensive cover for the schools. The uniqueness about this product is school comprehensive cover as 1.5 million a year. So if you do want a solution and it's tailor-made based on the particular property in relation to this. Thank you very much.
Great. So there you have. That's the package. Everyone in there. It's full. And if you look at it, in this reopening period, 60 billion in total, and this will increase. As when you hear about us writing off interest accumulated unpaid, will immediately benefit. Said publicly owned or government aid a solution, but what will happen? So we are offering a solution today from some of 250 million to take kids to killers of inflated school fees. Parents are asking, I've not been working, where do I get the money? But have a good relationship with the bank. Within 2 minutes, you can borrow up to 250 million. Unsecured. So we've talked a lot. It's now your time to say something. And I know for a lot of you, you'll be speaking for yourselves, but also representing the rest of the Ugandans who are not in this room as a journalist. About 20 minutes, take all your questions. You can ask anyone on this side of the table. Just mention your name, your news outlet, and then your question. Just try to be brief.
The question, school comprehensive cover. I think it's very important that we an insurance. What is common fire? Also covering floods, damage. We're covering burglary. So it's a comprehensive. And we think it ought to be mandatory. I think part of the work that we want to do with the schools, once we've settled, have some sort of education piece. We're going to educate the educators on how to run the school as issues of insurance must be mandatory, because when you get impacted, you have to operate. That's number one. Number two, building reserves. A net for safekeeping is such an important part of how to run a how to run that is resilient and is able to sustain itself even in the midst of a crisis. So we will be coming up with a program on how we educate as resilient businesses. But that is a secondary chapter. The chapter now that is how do we open our schools in a safe way, in a manner where our children can go back to learning, and in an enabling environment where they can catch up on what they have lost.
Thank you, Anne. So we'll take the first question here. Your name, your outlet, and then the question.
My name is Abona from Africa. I have two questions, one to Anne, and then the other government. Is here. There was a recent program, one of the media houses, and what was up, they also discussed something about reopening of the schools and challenges ahead. One of the investors in the education sector, Uganda competitive business, the hub in the region has fallen totally because of the 2 years. And you know, Uganda used to earn a lot from education exports. As a minister of that export sector, to earn, you mentioned the bank is waiving interest rate. I don't know whether it could be okay for you to share with us about how much have you invested also. Rather, that waiver, what's the total? Then on the fee, do we have interest and does it interest and the original? And how much is the interest on that 1.5?
Take that directly before we move on, or we take...
We
series
can,
of them.
If other people are still thinking about their questions, we should give them a chance so that we can.
Let's answer these. Then we get to the next.
Thank you so much. Mine is a very simple question. Of the 1.5 trillion shillings, is Stanbic. What do you say?
All the banks.
Commercial banks. And then maybe to Kedris, is government also giving some support to private schools, because teachers have not been paid for 2 years in private schools because they are not earning. Schools, if you have bushes, some employed were sold, others to other businesses because people have to become creative. It has its own share of the schools it is looking after. Thank you so much.
My name is Ismail Ladu, Nation Media Group. And but my question is out of the woods yet. The Omicron cases are already rising, not particularly in Uganda, but we don't know where we are coming from. The president in his address said that there are certain measures that may be taken in case the situation gets. So the question is, have you, when taking these decisions that I think are bold, did you factor that in mind, that there's a chance we lockdown that will again impact or disrupt? Then is this the waiver? Is it to be for, or is it a decision that you've just taken and said, okay, everything, or because of this, we also want to be under that. Last one, Madam Director, from where you sit, bank, has this leadership. But do you have a feeling that this is a solo project for Stanbic Bank, or if they are, who are they? What are they saying? Are they able? And I'm not sure whether it's just a follow-up on the first question is how much are you waiving, for instance, just an average?
All right. Okay, let's just take it.
Yeah. Vision. And you appeared, okay, you were the panel that discussed the schools reopening and the challenges. And there was an issue creating a fund for the schools where they can borrow. It's a joint effort within the banking sector. Just wanted to get an up as a sector, how far you're looking.
Get questions for Anne, so I will start with the government to respond on issues. time to, let me first sanitize these machines and come back.
Sanitizer as well.
It's too big though. Yeah, cool.
Friends, for the questions, the first one is how do we get ourselves back to the level of effectiveness that we were at? If we all join hands and do what we are supposed to do and follow the SOPs as given to us, our schools will open, there will be adults to be vaccinated. The above 18s. We need parents to really be cooperative. We are all together in there. If our children are traveling in taxis, we'll raise red flags because that will take back. But as long as we get back well, we shall pick up. So me, I'm not worried about that one. Then there was a question on support to private schools. The government gave 20 billion, which teachers in private schools can access. Had a few challenges because private schools did not have, the teachers did not registered or anything. So it was a back and forth. It's public money. So it has taken longer to be accessed, but it's available. And even as they start going back to school, the teachers, I think it's almost now fully there. The teachers should be able to access some of this money, which will them themselves to pay fees for their own children. But also doing, for example, the trainings that we have carried out, because we had my brother Haji mention it, on how do we open schools, how do we open them safely, how do we keep them safely. So the whole entire training has been done as the directorate and the local government inspection team because they are Ugandan children. They are only private in terms of ownership. The rest of the things is the same. So we support in all those ways that are general. We are not giving money because we don't have. We've been giving support so that our schools, I'm not talking about government schools. I'm talking about our schools. Ugandan. Then teaching them Ugandan assessment through UNEP, except the ownership support that is possible within our means. I think Ken was right. I think mine were fewer.
I don't know if I can add something about that, something small.
Yes. Bring your sanitizer, Ken, so that you pass on.
Dear group, when this is an emanation from the engagement the commercial banks. So much engaging financial banks, commercial banks rather, such that they down and of course reduce the interest rates. I think that's a significant role. That's why I said even that we are crying for the 5 million for restoration of schools. That's to do with the painting. But when banks were engaged up with this, we feel so much relieved, more relieved than the 20 billion, because that 20 billion translates to per institution, per teacher. Thank you.
So Anne will answer the
where Haj Mustafa left off with regard to what the Bank of Uganda put in place. You saw the circular late last year that there here with us again on Thursday to reiterate those moves, but essentially speak to banks having forbearance for loans to do with schools and putting in place different ways in which we can address the pains of the schools. And the EDS will be here on Thursday at 11. You will be invited for that conversation. But if I take up from the top with Mr. Kabona from the East African on the breakdown of the loans, 1.5 billion is the principal. Accrued interest over the last 2 years is somewhere between 400 to 500 billion of interest. Interest over a 2-year period, depending on the institution and the rates at which you could. But that is what we have. There's a question, it's been asked by but on the Stanbic component, how much is writing off? Now, my friends, you know we are not permitted to make pronouncements with regard to our own financials. So it becomes very difficult to tell you an exact number, because this conversation we will have when we invite you back here when we release our financial. What I can ask you to do, you can use our market share as a proxy. We have about 38 to 40% of total assets in the banking industry sitting on our balance sheet. It's not a bad approximation you can use. However, we cannot at this point in time, especially as the for us to be finite and definite on what we can say about our financials at this point in time. About how bold and how are we, especially given this is the reality of the economy in which we are operating. Certainty is no longer be certain about. Today is Omicron, tomorrow is Delta, the other day is some. So we have to find a way, because the alternative is to sit and wait for us to be sure. The cost of sitting and waiting far greater than the calculated and indeed bold risks that we are taking in this space. Because we ask ourselves, if we say that Uganda is our home and we drive her growth, how then do we sit and wait for us to be sure that there's no more COVID, zero COVID? And anyway, can you, or are we going into a space where we finds of this thing? The days of COVID is to work within the challenges that we face. And we as Stanbic are leading this path. And we hope that other financial institutions also join in. Because this is not a job that can be covered by one institution. We all have a role to play in our different distinct sectors and according to our capability. But it's the option of sitting out and waiting is not an option, at least Stanbic. And I hope that we have clarity on that. And we as business leaders are in the frame of saying, take the risk as it comes. Instead, is the fact that this country has 16 million school going. That demographic is not going to change tomorrow. On the emphasis and the importance of change. And if you look around as a parent, aside from your children's health, there's nothing more important to you than your children's education. So for 3 things, we are which is why we're just supporting the traditional way of education, which is the class-based. Also hearing us coming up with insurance policies a program so that we get to a point where every Ugandan child has access to a computer. You boldly about the cost of data and what the policymakers need to do in that space to make data for school. Continues Dr. Kedris, that we have to So is will instead take the bull by the horn, and we will policymakers and with you, the members of the public, to find a way to craft a brighter future for our children. Ismail, I hope that does answer your question. Whether schools will apply individually. We don't like blanket things because we have a personal relationship with our customers. You've heard Haj Mustafa here saying, I go to my branch, they know me, they talk to me. So while applied on an institution, you can have access up to 500 million, depending on depending to know is our unshakable support to the education sector. We will stand with them. We have, even when it wasn't fashionable, when schools were closed and no one was saying anything, that one does not change. Even when we start opening the schools, and it won't be seamless. We know that. It is not going to be a straight line. But we together to move forward for that. So it will be individualization and providing a bespoke which so that idea has been is on the side for now. Further discussions between the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Uganda. It's something that remains quite a better way of dealing it. But in the absence of the fund, we find a different way to move forward. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much.
Government institutions come up with what is within their mandate to do. With on this front. When National Water and Sewage Corporation say we shall not cut any school for the debt, it will be staggered until schools in terms of laying the backbone. They are doing it on behalf of this government. We are able to bring it out.
Close. Some of you may just want the largest bank in terms of assets. So say all is in almost 5 is in interest. So if you look at that, you'll get the number. Says the future, or certainly we are doing this not because it's business, it's our corporate responsibility to support the sector. Anyone else?
Let me clarify on the, and we will give you a press statement so that we don't, we have the facts right. Let's get clarity. We have waived interest and applied the full 2021. So it's the interest accrued, not the principal itself. And more important, viewers and readers want to hear about is the forward. So all the boosts, and I hope you do have, can we have a press statement that we will give for you to get the exact numbers, amounts, and that. And Ismail, when we do really exact numbers, as it is now, you can take our market share to do that. Schools are direct these are across children, even in this effort of touching them. So those numbers we can share, we just can't share what the balance statement impact.
It wasn't asked that would like to ask. Before you come on, I to make sure there is none, then I'll give the opportunity to come. This should be the last, then. But thank you very much.
We are figure people. What I'm trying to, is it also offending and against regulatory? Rather says if you look at what you have set aside for this kick-off a term with back to school, how much is it?
Yes, so we do we countrywide, depending on how many people come forward. I can tell you that up to 100, not the full amount. If there is additional demand, assets, and we are countrywide. So the 100 is just access, and that is by no means where we are going to stop. It is for any and everyone who comes forward to apply. We will be able.
And there is a quick brief in Luganda. I don't know how possible that is, but it's a request from Buked and our other local institutions. And I know it's important because but a lot
Sonia
of...
speaks good Luganda. Matthias would do a good job.
Okay, so just a summary of what we are offering to our in Luganda.
Bassebo ne bannyabo yange nze Matthias tuliwo okuyimirira awamu na buli ssomero lyonna biddamu okutereera ate era naddala okulaba oba ebyenfuna by'eggwanga awamu bitereera. Ffe nga Stanbic tulina ebintu bingi eby'enjawulo bye tutaddewo era eno etereera. Nga bwe mukimanyi gafunye obuzibu bw'amaanyi ga gavumenti. So kitegeeza nti amasomero gano gakoseddwa nnyo mu byenfuna. Stanbic Bank evudde omulanga guno nti okusookera ddala amasomero gonna agalina loan university yenna oba amagoba gonna ag'omwaka 2020 gonna Stanbic twasazeewo genda gajjawo era amasomero ago tegagenda gasasula. Tujja kugayamba gawola ensimbi okulaba nti gasomera maaso okulaba amasomero gaddamu okutambula obulungi, era tujja kukozesa ebitabo byabwe eby'omwaka 2019 engeri gye baali bakolamu okulaba nti tubayamba mu ngeri eyo. Olw'okuba nti 2021 tewali kibadde kitambula. Ate ekirala amasomero gano geetaaga ebintu ebirala bingi, naddala tukimanyi bulungi nti amasomero gafuna ebizibu, agamu bagookya, amataba n'ebirala. So nga bank tuvuddeyo ne tubawa insurance yesinga n'okuba premier okutandikira ku $1.5 nga butuddamu okukola amasomero tegafuna ate bwe gafuna obuzibu gayambibwa. Ekirala nti abasomesa, abazadde n'abaana tazo okufuna loan okusasula school fees kaka $50 kufuna ku account offer obanga weekolera mirimu